How's everybody doing? You all good? You all have a good holiday? A great Christmas? Happy Hanukkah? I hope so. Everybody hit that little like button. Try and hit that little like button. Be grateful. Really helps out my stream. Hope you guys had a great holiday though. I did. What up, Sean? We got a lot to talk about today. There's been some hate crimes in the U.S. That's never good. One in like a house where a huge Orthodox and Hasidic community is in New York, actually not far from where I live, which kind of is a crappy situation. Another one happened in Texas at a church. The man in the church actually spoke out, the hero who wound up killing the suspect. He actually spoke out today, saying he doesn't consider himself a hero, etc., etc. U.S. striked 5 facilities with airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, linked to Iranian-backed militia. And because of that, now Iran says that it's going to, quote, there will be major consequences for it. There was a plane crash in Lafayette, Louisiana, where almost everybody died except for one person. Australia's wildfires are burning out of control, so much so that they say that the residents who are still there, it might be too late to leave. It's pretty scary. A lot to talk about. Chinese scientist who edited genes of twin babies is now jailed for 3 years. Somebody yelled at Biden. A heckler yelled at Biden at a campaign rally yesterday, calling him quote, a pervert, and telling him, don't touch kids. Supposedly, Vladimir Putin thanked President Trump for foiling a New Year's attack that was supposed to happen in Russia. And, we also have the decade end charts, the top 100 songs of the 2010s, as this decade comes to a close. A lot to talk about, a lot. But I want to know how you all are right now. Are you guys well? Hope you all are fantastic. I guess that's what really kind of matters, right? Seeing how you guys are. So we're going to get this show going here in a second. I hope you guys are all well. We come on the screen, not like that. You don't be disgusting, people. Okay? You all know what I meant. Don't be disgusting, people. Okay? It's not something that I need Okay, I don't need you to be gross. All right. But I hope you all are well. I hope you guys all had a great Christmas, a great Hanukkah. And I hope that you guys all enjoyed your time with your families. And tomorrow is New Year's Eve in 20 hours. A little bit less now. In New Zealand, it will be 2020. So we are bringing in the new year very soon. Some places it's already New Year's Eve. Here in New York, it's not. But it will be at 12 o'clock midnight. It will be New Year's Eve day. So it's going to be really an excellent close to the year, hopefully. I'm really excited to start the new year. I'm excited to see what other ventures there are because, man, 2019 for me was just a whole bunch of nonsense, and I can't. I'm just so happy to have the year over. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Are you guys excited to bring in the new year? Are you guys excited to be done with the holidays? Really want to know because it's pretty. To me, it was just like. It was just a whole bunch of nonsense this year. So I am happy and grateful that 2019 is about to be over and that 2020 is about to begin, and hopefully it's going to be a lot better. That is my hope. That is my wish. And I think it's something that can be done. That is for sure. It can't be worse. That's for sure. Last year was not a great year for me. So I don't know about you guys, but that's the way I feel about the situation. But we're going to get down into the news here in a second. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to start off with these attacks in the United States, religious attacks. So over the last couple days, there was an attack in a place called Muncie, New York, which is about 45 minutes outside of New York City. It is a very Orthodox and Hasidic Jewish community. It is the largest per capita in the United States that holds the most Hasidic Jews. And there was an attack where a man came running in with a machete. And it was a mess. He wound up stabbing 5 people. He ran into a rabbi's house and wound up stabbing 5 people. And it was just not a great scene, obviously. And this was what was said. This is what happened. I'm going to play this video for you, and then we're going to speak on this a little bit. But from what I understand, the deranged man, the deranged armed suspect with a machete, by the way, has had various mental problems in his lifetime that have been documented. So obviously there was something going on there. How this was not picked up, I'm not really sure. The investigation is still ongoing. But yeah, we're gonna watch this video. And we're gonna then discuss it.
The guy is in the hotel with blood right now.
I was going before him like a few feet, screaming, he's coming, he's coming. Everybody in the synagogue should run away. I didn't know where he was walking to, but I walked with him slowly. He sat into his car. I looked for his plate number, called 911.
I think this is an act of terrorism. I think these are domestic terrorists. They are trying to inflict fear. They're motivated by hate. They are doing mass attacks. These are terrorists in our country perpetrating terrorism on other Americans, and that's how we should treat it.
This is not just policing. These are communal problems. These are societal problems that we need to get in front of, and we need to figure out why these things are happening and why this rise against the Orthodox populations and why the rise against the overall Jewish population is taking place right now, locally and in this country.
So anyone mass murdering people is deranged and has mental health problems, in my honest opinion. Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. But now, was it just because he had a hatred for Jews and Hasidic Jews and Orthodox Jews only, or was he just? Could this have happened to anybody? Now, supposedly, there's an update from this story that they found a lot of anti-Semitic journals and stuff like that in his house. The man is supposedly, like I said, been well documented that he's had mental problems. And so was this charged by his mental problems, or was this charged by the way that this country is right now as far as the hatred, excuse me, towards the country and towards Jewish people as a whole? That's something that I guess we're going to find out, because there is no real motive. What I also understand is the guy had to drive over 30 minutes away to go to this particular neighborhood in New York, and that's not that long of a drive, but it's also not like it's right in his backyard. So it seems to be a little bit more targeted, but we're still not 100% sure from what I understand. Like I said, there is still a police investigation going on here, and that's the situation. But while this was going on, the very next day there was a shooting in a in a church in Texas, and I just want to I when I read the name of this town, the name of the town is called White Settlement, Texas. Okay. Now, to me, right there, that's just a strange name to have as far as a town, especially in America. It's called White Settlement, Texas. That is the name of the town, which is a very different name, to say the least. But anyway, I guess a guy walked in and he pulled out a gun and he started shooting people, and he killed 2 people, and then somebody then killed him. What's up, Rosie? And that's pretty much how this went down. We're going to let the woman from CNN take it over so that you guys can get all the details, exactly what happened on this church shooting in Texas. I feel you, Rosie. And yeah, and then we're going to hear from the man who actually killed the suspect. So let's listen in.
We have just learned a second victim has died in the church shooting in Texas.
Yes.
The news coming
Rosie, that happened like 40 minutes from my house.
After police revealed stories of heroism in the attack in one.
Literally just talked about it. I don't know why this video is doing this. Why is this video doing this?
Settlement. The attack in.
That's crazy, and it makes me sad. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a messed up situation. The man is supposedly deranged, and he does have noticeable history for mental illness. Obviously, still does not make it any better, does not make it any easier on the families, does not make it correct or anything. but it shows that there was a mental problem and situation that was going on that people were well aware of, and for some reason it wasn't picked up. How, I mean, he used a knife, he used a machete, so it's really hard to go after somebody who didn't use a gun. It's not like he went to the store and bought a gun to use in this situation. So it's probably rather easy to go undetected in this kind of a situation. But from what I understand, he drove 30 minutes away from where he lived to where the rabbi's house was. So clearly, it seems like it was an attack on Hasidics and Orthodox and Jewish people as a whole. There's also been a lot of things going on like this in New York lately. Every single day through Hanukkah, I know in New York there was at least one attack on Jewish people. So it's pretty sad for sure. I think it's definitely from his mental illness for sure. But like I just said, in New York, one attack every day for Hanukkah. There was. Only in New York, by the way. I don't know about other states. But I know for sure in New York, every single day during Hanukkah, there was an anti-Semitic attack. And, now Cuomo wants to change the laws, which is our governor. He wants to change the laws and make it an act of terrorism, which I think
We have
I'm
just
definitely
learned
not against
a
it.
second victim has died in the church shooting in Texas. The news coming after police revealed stories of heroism in the attack in White.
I don't know why this video is doing this. This video just does not want to play. For whatever reason. So, we're just going to read it. We're just going to read it. A man shot and killed 2 people during a church service in White Settlement, Texas, which is a really weird name, by the way, on Sunday morning before 2 members of the church security team, which is pretty crazy that the church needs a security team, just like it's pretty crazy that synagogues need security teams. I mean, these are places of worship. This should not be happening, especially in the United States, but anywhere around the world. On Sunday morning before 2 members of the church security team shot and killed him, authorities said. City Chief J.P. Beavering said that the shooter entered West Freeway Church of Christ and sat down in the sanctuary, then stood, pulled out a shotgun, and shot 2. Oh, now it wants to
Today,
work.
at approximately 11:50 a.m., a gunman entered the West Freeway Church of Christ, White Settlement, Texas, during the church service. The preliminary reports indicated that the man entered the church and fired a weapon. A couple of members of the church returned fire, striking the suspect, who died at the scene.
And as you just heard, their parishioners were able to return fire, killing the suspect before police arrived. Officials now working to determine a motive for the shooting. They're going to look at new video from inside the church to determine exactly what happened, how it all unfolded. I want to bring in now CNN national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. She is a former assistant Homeland Security Secretary. Juliette, great to have you with us. We know the FBI and ATF have been dispatched to the shooting at the church in Texas. Help us understand the significance of that.
So, I mean, in any case in which there might be a federal crime, whether it's a hate crime or any other federal criminal behavior, you would have the FBI investigate as well as ATF. We don't know in the Texas case exactly what the motive is. It is a place of worship, so you might wonder, and it's right to question whether it was related to sort of a religious animus. It might have also been a family dispute. We just don't know yet. So you're always going to want to have that federal nexus, in particular where it's a place of worship.
So I don't know what you're thinking about this, but it seems like these are some pretty politically motivated attacks. I mean religious motivated attacks. in both sects. So this is the man who actually shot and killed the suspect in White Settlement, Texas, in the church.
I don't see myself as a hero. I see myself as doing what needed to be done to take out the evil threat. That's the way I approach it. That is, like I said earlier, that's how I am, processing this whole event.
What are your plans for the rest of the day? I know there's a
So he says he's not a hero and that he just did what he had to do to take out, quote, evil that was going on. I know that 2 people died, not including the suspect, and we're still waiting to hear if that was also a religious motivated attack, which definitely seems like it was. And yeah, so we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with these 2 stories, but religion has definitely come under attack and over attack in the recent days. Everywhere in the U.S. From Jewish to Christianity for sure, and it's unfortunate that this is going on. I do believe that some of it is politically motivated and the hate through social media, etc. It just does not seem like a great place to really, it seems like this is what's stirring everything up. The hatred on social media, the hatred that we see every day on the TV, whether it's Trump or whoever. It's just like, it just seems like it's a bad situation right now, and it really sucks. But in other news, we also took out Iraq and Syria linked Iranian-backed militia facilities. Yes, the U.S. did airstrikes on 5 facilities in Iraq and Syria that were linked to Iranian-backed militia. So this is something that's been going on where I guess these militia that are Iranian-backed have been going after the United States and the Kurds for a while, killing them and really injuring them. And the United States finally said enough is enough and did some airstrikes. But the problem is that the Iraqi government has condemned the attacks, that the airstrikes, as well as other people, and Iran said that there is going to be a problem that we did this. So we're gonna watch this video, learn more, and then we'll discuss.
Officials say U.S. forces conducted strikes in Iraq and Syria against 5 facilities that were tied to an Iran-backed militia. The targets were blamed, or at least connected to, a series of attacks on joint U.S.-Iraq military facilities housing American forces. CNN's Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr joins me now from Washington with more. These strikes are the first significant military response and retaliation with these attacks, which targeted American personnel on the ground, correct?
That's right, Martin. This has all been going on for several weeks. The U.S. says that an Iranian-backed militia group that's been operating in Iraq and Syria is responsible for a number of rocket and mortar attacks against locations where U.S. troops are in Iraq. And actually on Friday, one of these attacks was in the death of a U.S. civilian contractor. So the U.S. has been looking for some time now what its response should be and what they want to do. And this morning, Washington time, 7 o'clock in the evening on the ground in Iraq, U.S. F-15s conducted strikes against 5 facilities in Iraq and Syria operated by this militia group that the U.S. says are responsible for these attacks. The targets were command and control and weapons storage ammo sites. So what they were going after really was the capability for any additional strikes by this militia group to happen. They did report there were a number of secondary explosions at these ammo sites. So they do believe, for the moment at least, they got to this if one is practically minded, it doesn't ever really go away. But they're hoping they've at least pushed back the capability of this group. And to answer the obvious question, will the U.S. conduct more strikes? Officials tell us it's hard to say. They want to see what the Iranian response is to all of this and whether this group really pulls back or not. But President Trump has made it clear that he will not tolerate attacks against U.S. forces. So the U.S. swinging into action with these strikes in the last several hours.
So we do that, and then Iran decides to say that they are going to retaliate for the airstrikes. U.S. military officials say that they are closely watching for reprisals for American airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against an Iran-backed militia group, with the potential for a cycle of retaliatory actions that could inflame tensions between Washington and Tehran. The U.S. military carried out airstrikes on Sunday against the Khalib Halaba Hezbollah militia group in response to the killing of a U.S. civilian contractor in a rocket attack on Iraqi military base. On Monday, top Iraq militia leaders warned of a strong response against the U.S. forces in Iraq following the airstrikes that killed at least 25 people.
The American airstrikes in Iraq and Syria on Sunday that targeted a powerful militia group, a militia backed by Iran, have killed or wounded scores of its members, according to Reuters sources, and lays bare a crisis for Iraq's government because those fighters were formally part of Baghdad's own armed forces.
That's where it
the
gets
Prime
weird.
Minister, Adel Abdel-Mahdi, has condemned the strikes. He says it will have dangerous consequences. The militia group's supporters in parliament and religious establishment are calling it an attack on the country's sovereignty.
There are American lives at risk, and today what we did was take a decisive response.
Washington says the strikes were revenge for the death of an American civilian contractor in a rocket attack at a joint U.S.-Iraqi military base blamed on the group. Fighters killed were part of a coalition known as the Popular Mobilization Forces. The PMF are veterans of the campaign to defeat Islamic State and are part of Iraq's security apparatus, but are also a big proxy of Iran. The recent violent unrest that's rocked Iraq was largely spurred by protest over the influence of such militias in Iraqi forces. A PMF commander is vowing retaliation for the killing of its members, and Iran claims there's no evidence the group played any role in the attack on the military base. In Moscow on Monday, Iran's foreign minister Javad Zarif appeared alongside his Russian counterpart to condemn the airstrikes. He says the U.S. is drowning the region in, quote, a bucket of blood.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I trust what Iran says, but it's definitely not a good situation, and we'll see what happens over the next coming weeks, months, because we all know that Iran is definitely one to stand up for itself. And they're somebody we don't want to go to war with. We will win the U.S., but we do not want to do that. If at all, we can avoid it and have diplomacy take over. I think that is obviously the best option. So hopefully that's something that will happen. I wouldn't necessarily call it a revenge strike either, because they have been attacking, according to U.S. sources, they have been attacking these bases for a while. This particular militia. So it's been, an ongoing problem, and they say that they went after places where they hold ammo and weapons. So it wasn't necessarily meant to take out a lot of their militia, although obviously militia is going to be there because that's where their weapons are, right? And when you're fighting a war, what do you need? You need weapons. So obviously people were going to be there, but it seems like more of the intention of the U.S. was to take out more of their capabilities to continue to hurt us, as opposed to going after certain people or going after the militia itself, from what it seems like the U.S. is saying. Now, is that true? Who knows? Is what Iran's saying true? Who the hell knows? It's gonna, this is what it is. This is what it's gonna be. And we'll see if and when Iran retaliates. Hopefully they don't, but there's obviously still a point where they can and might, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So a journalist and an IT company executive and 3 others were killed in a Louisiana plane crash. This is just a really sad story that happened, and it's really just something that you never expect to happen. You never think you're going to witness it, etc. And these people in Lafayette, Louisiana, unfortunately had to witness this particular incident.
Saturday morning, just before 9:30 local time in Lafayette, Louisiana, people saw a plane fall out of the sky.
For the first time, my heart just wanted to stop and give up and take their place, and I just feel like it's pain. It's pain for the family and all that. And
this witness described the plane tilting, hitting a post and a couple of vehicles. What's left is a burned-out car flipped upside down, and pieces of the plane scattered in a field across the parking lot of this post office.
It's one of those things like you never could picture it in your mind. It was terrifying. And I was outside, I could feel the heat from the flames, and I could smell the fuel.
There were 6 people on the plane, and only one of them survived.
We got closer, and they pulled a guy out of the burning flames and brought him out.
The lone survivor, 37-year-old Wade Bursus, vice president of sales at Global Data Systems, an IT company. Among the 5 who died, Carly McCord, a 30-year-old sports reporter who worked at WDSU in New Orleans.
Well, everyone loves a good family football story.
Her football family includes her father-in-law, Steve Ensminger, offensive coordinator for Louisiana State University. McCord was on her way to see LSU play against Oklahoma University in Atlanta at the Peach Bowl.
I've been numb all day. It's been hard to do the show, quite honestly. I don't have much to say. Other than there's a lot of people that are going to be hurting today.
Those hurting include families of the injured. Besides Bursus, who survived from the plane, 1 more person on the ground was severely burned and is being treated in a hospital. 2 more people inside the post office were treated for smoke inhalation and are expected to be okay. Natasha Chen, CNN, Lafayette, Louisiana.
Yeah, it's definitely a sad situation, and I expect them to find the black box. I don't know when, but they probably will. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see what happens there with the black box, because that will give us a little bit more information. I also know that there was a plane crash in Pennsylvania. And it's just been a sad week as far as plane crashes go as well. But yeah, we'll hear about, I'm sure we'll find the black box, and NTSB will look at it and what made the plane go down exactly. There was another one in Hawaii, so then there was 3. I didn't hear about the Hawaii one. I don't know why, I just didn't. So there's been wildfires, and I mean wildfires, just freaking raging in Australia. So much so that residents are now warned that it's too late to leave parts of Australia's Victoria state as the fires rage. So whoever's left who has not evacuated, they probably won't be able to evacuate. It's a really sad, messed up situation. I know that we have a lot of wildfires here in the U.S. on the West Coast, But there's a pretty bad situation going on right now in Australia, and the temperatures are still rather hot as it's summer there. And yeah, the residents who decided to stay are now going to stay. They have no choice at this point but to stay. So it's a serious situation, and it doesn't look like there's any end in sight yet.
As the new year approaches, Australian authorities have a clear message for anyone in eastern Victoria.
If you're holidaying in that part of the state, it's time that you left.
Tens of thousands of residents and vacationers in southeastern Australia are being told to evacuate as strong winds and soaring temperatures fuel massive bushfires. Across the country, extreme warnings in effect as firefighters battle dozens of blazes. The worst blaze near Sydney, where fireworks are set to be lit on New Year's Eve, despite a total fire ban there. Officials say the world-famous display will ring in 2020.
Obviously, this is not a new thing. New Year's Eve and other events coincide with bad fire weather and total fire bans. But what we will be doing is working with local fire and rescue, the authorities, and just making sure that any perceived risks based on the conditions are ameliorated appropriately to ensure they can go ahead safely.
Despite assurances from officials, calls grow louder to cancel the fireworks. More than 250,000 people signed a petition to scrap the event, asking that millions of dollars usually spent on the display be redistributed to efforts like firefighting and animal care instead. But organisers say cancelling would only hurt local businesses.
Preparations for these celebrations began 15 months ago, which means that most of the budget, largely used for crowd safety and cleansing measures, has already been spent. So cancelling would have little practical benefit for devastated communities.
In some of those devastated communities, homes and businesses are left in ruins. Since September, the prolonged fires have left little respite for those fighting the destructive flames, and they're often volunteers.
Payments for income lost.
The Prime Minister says volunteers will now be compensated for their efforts in the worst-hit state of New South Wales.
15, 16-hour shifts in a row, you're exhausted at the end of that, and you might have one-day break and then they want you to go again.
15, 16 hours? Yeah, that's crazy.
And the payment is just a recognition of what we're doing. It doesn't compensate us for what we're losing, but it's recognition.
Some volunteers saying they appreciate the acknowledgement after fighting weeks of raging fires that show few signs of stopping. Rosemary Church, CNN.
Just absolutely insane there what's going on. So that really, really, really sucks. But I still understand how they feel. I don't. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't fortunately, not unfortunately, I don't fortunately, because we haven't had wildfires here in New York like that. We don't have that like you guys do over there on the West Coast. But it is definitely a horrible situation, and I mean, I guess it's cool that the fireworks show is still going to go on in Sydney, Australia, but then again, or in Australia, but then again, like, people could potentially be losing their houses and such, so you know, it's a real crappy situation for sure. I hardly see either one of my brothers during the fire seasons here. Yeah, I feel you, because they're 24 hours on, 24 hours off, correct? Unless I go out and help. I feel you. I feel you there. So there's a Chinese scientist who edited the genes of a twin babies is now jailed for 3 years for his practices. Really interesting story, really strange, really like off the mark, something that is completely different that you don't hear about every day.
He Jian Kui made headlines across the world back in November when he announced that his small team had worked in secret to edit embryos to reduce the risk of babies being born HIV positive. In other words, they were gene editing babies before they were born. He then claimed that one of those embryos he worked on resulted in the successful birth of twin girls, Lulu and Nana, and that a second woman is pregnant as well with a gene-edited embryo. There was, as you might expect, immediate uproar within the scientific community across the world, with critics saying that basically he went too far, that editing genes in the embryo is a serious breach of medical ethics. Medical experts told CNN that the technology surrounding gene editing is basically still in its infancy and could lead later on to a multitude
What's up, Ash?
of unknown genetic problems later in life. And that the experiment was also a huge blow to the reputation of China's biomedical research industry. And it wasn't just the medical community that was upset by this. Shortly after presenting his results, He Jiankui basically disappeared, and China said he had been placed under immediate investigation and that anyone associated with his project should suspend their work. Well, China today officially came out with the preliminary results of that investigation, saying in state media that He violated an explicit law banning embryo editing and did so, quote, in pursuit of personal fame and fortune, with self-raised funds and deliberate evasion of supervision and private recruitment of related personnel. Authorities also allege he forged ethical review documents and blood tests to circumvent a ban on assisted reproduction for HIV-positive patients. As for the babies born under his program, they'll now be monitored closely by the state. No word yet from authorities on a possible punishment, but you can expect the state to come down hard on this one, China mirroring the medical community's outrage, using its legal power to do so. Matt Rivers, CNN, Hong Kong.
What do you think? Do you think this should be a thing? I mean, like, if it's possibly helping out the embryos, stopping it from stopping you know, the spread of possible HIV and other things. Do you think that it's something that we still shouldn't deal with, shouldn't handle, or do you think it's something that we should eventually look into if it's going to make people healthier, if they can edit it and to make people healthier, find a situation to do this? I don't know. Like, I'm kind of torn in this right now. I think it's very new and stuff. And it seems like there's already laws against this, but if it's too obviously, if you're doing this just for fame and fortune, etc., that's an issue, okay? But I don't know about, like, if it's to actually help people and can actually help people, how is that a problem? I mean, I'm just posing the question, playing devil's advocate here. Really don't know. I want to know your thoughts, for sure, because I'm really interested in that. Probably shouldn't, because we aren't sure what it's going to do later on in life, but not 100% sure. This is interesting. Almost want to read his publishings. Definitely not when it comes from China. They're in their racist mindset. They might use it for super race. For a super race, I mean, that's an interesting thought. I mean, obviously the Chinese government didn't even want this. Hence why they sentenced him to 3 years in prison. You know, the thing is that I don't necessarily know if it's helping people. I don't see how it could be a bad thing. You know, and the way, you know, you said we don't know what it's going to do later on in life. That's true, Rosie. But the thing is the way you find out is when you actually, you know, follow through with these actions. And I'm not saying that we should, but that's the only way you're really going to know what happens, right? Is by testing trial and tribulations and, you know, errors. Trial and error. You know what I mean? That's for sure. Once again, not saying that we should, just, you know, playing devil's advocate here. They may have sentenced him to 3 years for that. Doesn't mean they won't. True. Maybe he wasn't supposed to talk about it. Maybe the government knew that something was going on and he wasn't supposed to talk about it. Now that he did, the government had to take action on it, but maybe he did it for his own political, financial and famous gain. But if he would have just kept his mouth shut, he might have been fine. Because who knows what the Chinese government is actually trying to do, which is what HK is actually saying. So I understand how that could definitely be an issue. But yesterday at a rally, at a Joe Biden rally, I'm about to start watching Joe Biden rallies if this is really the way it is. I've seen this from multiple places now and multiple kinds of situations. Something similar to what I'm about to show you. There was a heckler that stood up and yelled at Biden. And at the end of his rant, it's really hard to hear until the very end of his rant, he clearly says, "Don't touch kids. You're a pervert. Don't touch kids, you pervert." That is what is said in this clip. So I'm gonna play it, and I want you guys to really listen closely. I'm gonna be extremely quiet. I'm actually gonna mute my mic for this, and hopefully you guys can hear it. But Joe Biden is getting heckled like no other right now, and people are literally still accusing him of touching children, which is a stain on his reputation for ever now. It's just something that's going to happen. What's up, Robin?
That's okay. Hey, this is not a Trump rally. Okay. Oh. All right. I agree with you, man. I agree. Nice talking to you.
There it was right there. Don't touch kids, you pervert. I'm going to play the rest of the clip. I'm going to restart it and play it over again just so that you guys might be able to hear it. Just in case you didn't.
That's okay. Hey, this is not a Trump rally. Okay. Oh. All right. I agree with you, man. I agree. Nice talking to you. All right. Well, this is a democracy. Well, I hope it does. I hope it does. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Okay. Okay. Folks. Look, this is, we all know.
Okay, so that was the whole clip. So, I mean, Biden's been getting heckled and heckled and heckled even every single day. Every single rally has actually clapped back. At this exact same rally, I was originally trying to find the clip where he calls a protester, a heckler, an idiot. So it's not a good look for Biden either. Biden's definitely kind of losing his shit on the campaign trail, and seems like it's definitely not helping him out. It's going to hurt him eventually, but it is what it is. I don't think he has the same spontaneity and same approach as Trump, where Trump could just be like, "Yeah, you're an idiot, get out of here," and people laugh at it. But when it comes to Biden, it's like, "Whoa, dude, what are you doing?" And I mean, I get why. I mean, he's not Trump. You know what I mean? He's just not. Has Michael Bloomberg still changed to become the Democratic challenger of Trump? He would be the worst guy the U.S. could choose. Then I would even prefer Trump. Well, he is a Democratic contender. He is not moving in the polls. He has spent over $20 million already trying to run his campaign to get into Iowa and get like a good vote in the Iowa caucuses and other things, which are like only, I want to say, 60 days away or something like that. So only like a couple months away before the Iowa caucuses and before like people start to actually vote to become president. So it's it's extremely interesting, but Bloomberg is not going anywhere. It's just not going to happen. I mean, he's got name recognition. He's got a lot of money to throw around, but I don't think he's even going to come close. It doesn't seem like anybody's really interested in Bloomberg. He's not really doing anything. It's a pretty. He's still like in the single digits and still not even qualifying for debates, etc. So he did get in late, but I don't see the needle moving for Bloomberg much. I mean, I guess anything could happen, but I mean, I have seen weird stuff happen, like Trump becoming president. So I'm not gonna say never. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen, but it seems highly unlikely. And coming to one of the last stories of the day before we get down to some fun, Putin thanked Trump for foiling New Year's attacks. That's right. Putin thanks Trump for foiling New Year's attacks. Russia's President Vladimir Putin thanked the U.S. counterpart Donald Trump for intelligence that helped foil acts of terrorism on Russian soil, according to the Kremlin statement. Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump spoke on the phone on Saturday. On Sunday, it said. The Kremlin said that the information came via intelligence services, but it provided no further details. Russian media is reporting the discovery of a plot to attack St. Petersburg over the New Year's period. TASS news agency says 2 Russian nationalists have been arrested, and plans to attack a mass gathering were seized. According to a spokesman from the FSB, the Russian intelligence agency, Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump have spoken on the phone and in person on various times since the latter took office. So since Trump took office. How world leaders call each other. Records from the conversation show they have often talked about Syria as well as nuclear agreements, North Korea, and trade. In December 2017, Mr. Putin thanked Mr. Trump for another warning from the U.S. intelligence agencies, which again prevented a terrorist plot in St. Petersburg, according to a White House account. So this has happened before, which I find is really rather interesting here. Oh, fuck. Didn't want to do that. Hold on 1 second. Oops, something went wrong. I don't know why, but your links never come through, HK. I never get to see your links. It just never comes through for me. It always says that something went wrong. It's really interesting. Bloomberg called Z a normal leader elected by... Alright, I'll look at it in a second. During that call, the Kremlin and Mr. Putin had promised to reciprocate with information about terrorist threats to the United States. Relations between Washington and Moscow plummeted after Russia annexed Crimea Peninsula back in 2014. So, he helped foil a plot. I guess the U.S. intelligence agencies helped foil a terrorist plot in St. Petersburg over this weekend of festivities around the world, and Putin thanked him. And for some reason, Putin released this before Trump, and a lot of people are like, why would you not tell us this? Especially when a lot of people are saying that you're meddling in elections and that Russia meddles in elections and that you know, what's going on with Zelensky is an impeachable offense, etc., all this stuff that's swirling over Trump's head. And we know that the Russians have done over the 2016 and now 2020 elections coming up. That why would you not tell us about this, Trump? But it's really interesting. And so Russia gave a readout, and the White House didn't even acknowledge it until this morning, which is rather interesting, but I don't really think it's that insane. So I'm going to look for this story real quick before we move on. Before we move on here.
So the United States currently accounts for about 15% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Yes. China accounts for roughly 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. How do we, even if we get to net zero, how do you get China, India, and the other countries to be good partners?
China is doing a lot. Yes, they're still building a bunch of coal-fired power plants.
And they're still burning coal.
Yes, they are. But they are now moving plants away from the cities. The Communist Party wants to stay in power in China, and they listen to the public. When the public says, I can't breathe the air, Xi Jinping is not a dictator. He has to satisfy his constituents, or he's not going to survive.
He's not a dictator?
No, he has to. He has a constituency to answer to.
He doesn't have a vote. He doesn't have a democracy. He doesn't.
That
he's
doesn't
not held
mean he can
accountable by
survive
voters.
if his advisors
is the check on him just a revolution?
You're not going to have a revolution. No government survives without the will of the majority of its people.
Yeah, that is definitely a pretty weird statement to say there. That Xi Jinping is not a dictator. No, it's all good. It's all good that it's off topic, but it's really strange that he would say that. I mean, he's clearly a dictator. It's what he does. He's a dictator. I mean, clearly. Who cares? Their house, their cabinet, whatever they call it, their leaders, their gathering of leaders, they're all little dictators in their own right, but he's just the one of the largest, if not the largest. You know. And that's just the way it is. But I do want to go back to really interesting stuff, and let's end 2019 in this broadcast on a light note. So I have the Billboard Top 100 list of the decade, and I'm really surprised at some of these songs and where they're listed. I personally don't like a lot of these songs, but I think that some of them should not be listed where they are, and others should. But that's just my personal opinion. Coming in at 99 is Ho Hey by the Lumineers, which at one point was a really huge song. So was Wrecking Ball, but it's not a memorable song for sure. And that's a song that, like, I could have definitely lived without. I could definitely live without a lot of these songs, though. I said, what's up? Let's see, what else was there? Panda by Designer, that's a song that just, like, pissed me off. I don't know about you guys. Fuck You by CeeLo Green was another one. I forgot Panda was in this decade. Yeah, there's a lot of songs that I was very surprised about. Super Boss by Nicki Minaj. I could care less about her, to be perfectly honest. 21 Pilots, they're okay. Hotline Bling, that song was just atrocious. I can't stand it, but for a while that was a huge song, and I'm so glad that we are finally past that, and hopefully never going to go back to something like that. I mean, Flo Rida is in this, or Florida Georgia Line. Jonas Brothers, Sucker, oh my god. Jesus, What Do You Mean by Justin Bieber? Drake's on here a lot. Kelly Clarkson, he had a huge decade as far as that goes. Lady Gaga with Bad Romance. Oh my God. Cheerleader. Oh, I think I found myself a cheerleader. Shut the fuck up. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I love Take Me to Church. I feel you. The cheerleader song had to go though. That was that was a song that like everybody was singing for the longest time. And I could not I just could not deal with it. I just could not deal with it. Can't Stop the Feeling. That song didn't really. It was a good song at the beginning. I like Justin Timberlake, but they just got played the fuck out. It just got played the fuck out. Bodak Yellow, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here with this shit. I can't stand Cardi B. She's so annoying to me. Watch me whip. Watch me nay nay. Oh my God. Jesus. There was some horrible music here. Airplanes, I like that song actually. Oh wait, no, that's not the song I'm thinking of. Maroon 5, Could Care Less About. There's like 2 songs back to back there. Thank You Next. Yeah, Thank You Next on that one. I really just, I can't stand more than half of these songs. Can't hold us. But the number one song, what do you guys think the number one song of the decade was? Because this to me, it just surprised the hell out of me. This number one song really surprised the hell out of me. So I really want to know what you thought the number one song was, because it's oh my God, I couldn't believe it. You like a lot of these songs though? I mean, there's some good ones, but for the most part, I'm just old. I just don't like this kind of music. And yeah, I know that you're older, but still, I'm just saying. The number one song. Oh, 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 oh my God. That song I actually like. I don't know, it's probably some bullshit rock and roll song. I will tell you that it's not some bullshit rock and roll song. That's what I will tell you. So far, the only song that I even think like deserves to be on here at all is "Oh My God." Rick Roll. I don't even know what that is. Like, I know what Rick Rolls is, but I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, not rock and roll. I don't know what Rick Roll is. Like, there's a song called Rick Roll. I don't even know. The number one song of the decade. To me, this isn't a horrible song. And I don't know if they went by plays or what, but this song was just absolutely horrible to me. Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars. Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars was the number one song of the decade, according to Billboard Top 100 Songs of the Decade. Uptown Funk. Are you serious? I can't stand that song. Alright, I can live with that. And so is Party Rock Anthem. Yeah, but Party Rock Anthem was actually a Party Rock Anthem now, which I don't mind. Tomorrow I intend to do something on the top 9 international news stories of either 2019 or the decade. I think the decade would be pretty hard to do, but definitely 2009 is possible. Why not? I just don't like Uptown Funk. I don't think that Bruno Mars has his own style. I think that's really what it is. I think he tries to copy too much of Michael Jackson. And personally, I just don't like that, because be your own person. And that's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that that's what he's trying to do. That's what I feel he's trying to do. I don't know if he's actually trying to do that. Then you would have to cover 9/11. That's 2001 though, Rosie. That's not 2010. So it'd be from 2010 to 2020. It would be the 2010s, not the 90s. Or not the 2000s. If you did the yeah, but that's the previous decade, Rosie. So it'd be from 2010 on. Or I might just do the top 9 stories of the year, which is probably an easier one to do. Because that's definitely not the same. Yeah, that's a different decade. A completely different decade. But that's the news for today. So, I don't know. The new year is being brought in the next few days. In the next 20 hours, the New Year's will be brought in. First with New Zealand, then Hong Kong, then Sydney, as well as North Korea. And then moving on. Okay. So it would be New Zealand, Sydney, North Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Thailand, Dubai, Greece, Paris, Berlin, London, Copacabana, and we also have thousands of protesters taking to the streets on New Year's Day in Hong Kong. That's something we're definitely going to be watching out for, as we usually do. That will be actually during New Year's Eve here in the United States, but we'll see what's going on there. Italy, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of stuff going on. Then the United States, and that would be it. That would be Canada, the United States, with Hawaii ending it off. And then that would be 2020. I'm obviously not going to stream all of these, but I'm definitely going to stream some of them. I do intend to go out for New Year's Eve, at least for a little while, and then probably come home and stream for the Hong Kong protests. But for now, I'm going to hop up off of here. We'll see what else happens over the coming hours, over the coming days. I know we are still watching things that happened in Berlin today. I don't really know of too much information besides the fact that there were shots that rang out in Berlin. Don't know if anybody was actually shot. Don't know if anybody was actually killed. Don't know if anybody was actually injured at all. But there were shots that rang out in Berlin, and the police cordoned off a whole section of Berlin. That's as much as I know right now. I do not know of anything else, any other news. I cannot pick up any live feeds of this right now. There's no live feeds to be had. So as I find out more information, that's something I will be bringing to you probably over the next 24 hours as well. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see what happens with Iran warning the U.S. We'll see what happens in Hong Kong, of course, and China. We'll see what happens when it comes to Vladimir Putin and the U.S. president and the plot that got foiled for the St. Petersburg attack in Russia. I hope if I don't see you, you all have an amazing New Year's Eve and an amazing New Year's. And if I don't see you, I'll see you in 2020. Some of you I still might see in 2020 because at this point, coming back on, some of you might still be in 2020. I intend to come on earlier than 14 hours from now, but who knows. So I will be back here 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. New Year's Eve here in the United States, and in New York, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I intend to come back for today's news, which would be episode number 4, and we are on this 2020 grind from now on. From today, on a New Year's grind. That's it. Just we're gonna work. We're gonna work, people. So I hope that you guys stick with me. I know that you will. I know that you guys will come back and you guys will support me, and I appreciate it. And we are gonna be here. Yes, that's right, Trendy. And I love you guys as always. Peace, love, unity, respect, and Sully is out.